Yeah.
Represents being real. Yeah.
Unfiltered sports talk. Manufactured locally for the Carolinas.
Locked down.
This is the Rob Brown Show.
Get robbed.
Only on
The Fan Upstate.
And away we go, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome in. The Rob Brown Show is on the radio. This is the Fan Upstate. Howdy, y'all. How y'all doing? Welcome in. Great to have you. Happy Wednesday. Happy Singles Awareness Day, as I was informed earlier this morning that it is.
Wow. Single Awareness Day?
Yeah, Singles Awareness Day. For all the people who had to tolerate that gushy lovey-dovey from all the booed up folks last night, today is your day to go out, because you know none of us are going out tonight.
I'm surprised Hallmark hasn't jumped on that one too. They probably have. There are probably cards out there.
Lonzo hates Valentine's Day.
And it's a made-up holiday.
It's not a made-up
It's
Valentine's
an absolute
Day.
made-up holiday.
And even if it is, so what? Every holiday is a made-up holiday.
No, most holidays have significance. Valentine's Day was made up by Hallmark, and they've reaped the benefits ever since.
I mean, I can't tell you the last time that I bought something from Hallmark.
Doesn't
be
matter.
honest.
Doesn't matter. They know.
Happy Singles Awareness Day, or if you prefer acronyms, SAD Day.
Oh, okay. I get it. So this is the day where people are made to feel bad because they don't have a significant
I make me feel bad.
Because that's what you're trying to do.
Not at
I mean,
all.
if you're celebrating Single Awareness Day or pointing it out, then they're saying all you people are sad. I never would got the acronym if you hadn't pointed
Listen,
it out.
It was a single person who told me this morning that it's Singles Awareness Day. All right. I didn't
Do those
know
still
that.
exist in this building?
Single people?
Yeah.
Well, there's at least one.
Okay.
Happy Singles Awareness Day. You don't have to put up with the gushers like you did yesterday. Today is your day. The bars belong to you, and I wish you well. How do you say this without getting in trouble? I used to love February 15th when I was a younger and more formidable young man. Used to love February 15th.
I'm starting to get it now.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Everybody that is out at the Brewski house on a February 15th, you know they are rolling solo, man. You talk to anybody. So I wish you all happy hunting.
So wait, couples don't go out on February 15th?
Well, those of us that do go out on February 14th don't go out on February 15th. You, on the other hand, I'm not sure. Your hatred of all things love and affection.
I don't hate all things love and affection. With the right people, I'm good. You want me to come around there and give you a big old hug?
Yes, I do. Yes, I do.
Do you want me to?
No, I don't.
Because I'll put my headphones down.
No, I don't.
It's going to have to be, from behind kind of thing. And I just took that training and I don't want that, mistook for something.
Let's talk about literally anything else, shall we? Welcome in, folks. We got some sports to get to on the radio broadcast today. We will spend some time later on in the show discussing and breaking down the disappointment that is big-time D1 college basketball in the state of South Carolina. We're going to get to that coming up in a minute. Oh, good call. Good call. Well, I forgot to pop down the AC. Lonzo took that as a troll moment. I'm like, oh, God, he's going to do it. He's going to give me a weird bro side hug.
You were worried. And by the way, if you want to see how worried he was, you could have seen it all live on Facebook, Twitch, Twitter, and YouTube. You should go there now.
Facebook.com/thefanupstate, Twitter.com, search and subscribe to The Rob Brown Show on Twitch or YouTube. And you can not only watch all 3 hours of the show live, but you can also have conversations with us off the air, You can watch Lonzo try to make things as awkward as possible in the studio at every single second that we are on it. Facebook.com/TheFanUpstate, Twitter.com/TheFanUpstate, or search and subscribe to The Rob Brown Show on Twitch or YouTube. We will be talking today about the state of major college basketball in South Carolina as the Gamecocks picked up the numero uno recruit in college basketball. And not only have they won just 2 Southeastern Conference games, both of them on the road, but in a loss to Vanderbilt this week, which, by the way, means they have been swept by the doors. Gigi Jackson played about 12 minutes, came off the bench, and at one point during a timeout was seen standing away from the team by himself, untucking his jersey and removing the tape off his wrist. Now, we don't work professional wrestling into everything, but Lonzo, if one half of a tag team jumps off of the apron and takes the wrist tape off, you know that they are abandoning their tag team member.
Yeah, it's over. The relationship is done, and they're moving on.
So we're going to break down if this is going to be listen, a lot of Gamecock fans have hit me with messages of optimism and hope about their basketball program. Got a lot of transfers out there right now, a lot of lower level college ball players who showed up because Lamont Paris basically just had to fill out a roster. And there's the potential for the Gamecocks to be very good moving down the line. But I do find it disappointing that the best freshman in college basketball can't help the Gamecocks move forward. You put that on Gigi? Do you put that on Lamont? What do you put that on? We'll talk about that. Kim Mulkey, the head coach of the LSU women's basketball team, had some very interesting comments about Dawn Staley's USC Lady Gamecock basketball program. She said it's South Carolina and everybody else. And I'm going to make the argument later on in the show that if you are not watching USC women's basketball, you should be. Not because you're a Gamecock fan, not because you are all residents of the Dawn Staley empire. I'm going to make the argument because after going back, I watched that game, USC LSU, live on Sunday. I watched some highlights of it once again yesterday afternoon. I like to go back 2 or 3 days after a big-time game and rewatch it because you're going to pick up on things. You know, I know the result of this play, so I don't have to watch the ball. Let me watch off ball, etc. After watching that USC LSU women's college basketball game, I am convinced that this year's USC team is better than last year's. And the reasoning behind that is I am convinced this year's USC women's basketball team may very well be the best women's college basketball team in history. And I'll make that argument for you later on in the show. We are. Hey, look, Chad got in here at the perfect time. He just said, quote, NASCAR, end quote. Turns out we will be talking about NASCAR later on. Why? You might ask yourself, hypothetical listener I made up for this situation. It's because the Daytona 500 is on Sunday. I had a conversation in a hockey game about 2 weeks ago with a young man who was a listener of the show, who we got to chatting, and he asked me how I became a NASCAR fan. So I told him the story. Long story short, when I was in college, I had a fraternity brother who was a big NASCAR bro. And he brought me out to a dive bar, and he said, come watch the race. I'll buy the beers. All you got to do is hang out with me. And I did. And he explained the race to me. He explained why it was more than just go fast, turn left, go fast, turn left, go fast, turn left. Why there was more to it than that. And I fell in love with the sport and have been ever since. This Sunday is your opportunity to do that all over again. And I'm going to explain to you a sports comparison. I'm going to compare the 500 to one of the most popular and beloved sporting events in history and tell you the qualities that the Daytona 500 shares with one of America's most beloved sporting events. That's coming up later on in the show as well. So we'll get to all of that and more. But I do want to start with this. Yesterday afternoon, I arrived back at the Casa de Love, and as I was preparing for the Valentine's Eve date with the lady friend, she was getting ready. Rob was on the couch. He had a replay of New Girl rolling on the Netflix. And my phone, ping, 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 which usually means one of a few things. It either means that something I said on the air got picked up by somebody, as our Gunther interview did from a couple of weeks back, or it means that someone said something remarkably dumb somewhere, and a horde of listeners were like, Rob needs to know about this right now. Now, this notification spree I got yesterday does not fall into any category, but yesterday, after the final head coaching position was rounded out, when the Indianapolis Colts named their new HC, there was a slew of articles asking, when is Eric Bieniemy going to get his chance? Why is Eric Bieniemy not a head coach yet? You've got guys like Frank Reich who are retreads. You got guys like Josh McDaniels. We're watching the Raiders implode. Isn't this McDaniels' third time as a head coach? And he's failed every one of them so far? Why can Eric Bieniemy not get a job? And there seem to be really two, maybe three tops reasons that people latch onto. It's either A, the NFL's racist. It's B, Eric Bieniemy doesn't interview well, which I've heard a number of times. Or C, there's stuff from Eric Bieniemy's past that teams just aren't willing to dive into.
Or could it be that people give Andy Reid more of the credit for all the offensive calling, and they think that Eric Bieniemy is just a product of being around a really good offensive-minded coach?
I see that Lonzo has done his homework and read the prep sheet today.
No, actually, I have not. I have not. So
that's my primary belief at this point, right?
Because it was Andy Reid, and then suddenly people felt obligated to mention Eric Bieniemy, which he may or may not be an offensive genius. I don't know. But suddenly he started getting mentioned every time they mentioned the offense for Kansas City, and I never understood exactly why. But we don't know how much plays he really calls. We don't know any of that stuff. I know Andy's got a pretty big menu in front of his face every day of the week, but definitely on Sunday.
How about Terry Bradshaw telling Andy Reid, waddle over here, big boy?
Yeah, like he has any room to talk.
Bradshaw, my God.
It did look like Bradshaw was bigger than Andy Reid.
Listen,
I'm just saying.
As a current fat guy, Terry, there's a reason you're wearing an over jacket in Arizona. All right, we all know it. Anyway, I think that first off, yes. I absolutely believe that the very toppest tiers of the NFL are to some degree a good old boys club, right? You're going to be hard pressed to find me a reason that Josh McDaniels is on head coaching job number 3 when there's a lot of very good coordinators who have not gotten their crack at number 1 yet. So yes, I believe to some degree that there is an old boys club element to this discussion.
Well, I guarantee you in this room sitting right now is someone who's excellent at interviews and someone who's the exact opposite. I bet you kill it in an interview.
No, I kill every conversation I have.
And I do not. So, I mean, there's so many variables in here, so many possibilities as to why. And it could be just a combination of a lot of them.
Absolutely. And I'm going to hit those. I think that Eric Bieniemy is facing, as I do think a lot of black coaches are in the league, does face a somewhat uphill battle against the top tier of management.
I don't know what his race has to do with him being bad at interviewing. If you are bad at interviewing, it doesn't matter what race you are. You're just bad at it. It doesn't matter if you're male, female, or whatever. If you're bad at it, you're bad at it.
I understand. But I would also say, I don't think that I'm going to chalk up a guy who has been to 3 AFC championships, who has won 2 Super Bowls, has been to 3 of them, is going to show up to an interview so terribly poorly that Josh McDaniels, who has accomplished nothing as a head coach, gets his 3rd attempt. So what I'm saying here, Lonzo, is that I absolutely believe that being a poor interviewer, right? When you get called into the owner's box for that interview and they go, Eric, tell us a little about your offensive philosophy. If Eric just cannot answer those questions, sure, it doesn't help, right? I'm saying that I have no doubt there are multiple factors here.
By the way, I hope he's as advertised. He's that good and someday gets a shot. But how many coordinators get a shot and do well? I mean, there's a good portion of them that go somewhere else as a head coach and they bomb big time.
I'm staring directly at you, Dennis Allen, right? Like, I get it. That's my team at this point. The point that I'm making here is if you are engaged in the Eric Bieniemy conversation and you just circle one reason, right? It's just racism. Do I think there is an element of that at play? Absolutely, I do. Absolutely, I do. Do I think that it is more than that? Also, I do. I absolutely think that the fact that there is something now, there is something that happens in sports media that does bug me, which is sometimes, and I know it bugs Lonzo too, because he brings it up very frequently. That's all it takes is one report about something, and suddenly that becomes the reality of the situation, right? You nor I nor anybody else knows if Eric Bieniemy is a good or a bad interview, right? None of us have interviewed him, and none of us have seen him in the process of an interview. It is very possible that he just flunks interviews constantly, but it's also possible that that's just the narrative. We've never heard anybody come out with a counter or deep support of it.
But there are people out there who know whether he is or not, and they can't come out and say it.
I agree. And that is going to be the ultimate drive to this for me is there's really only ever going to be one way that this conversation goes away. I think there are multiple factors. I think there is an element of the issue of racism at the top of the NFL. I think that there is an element of Eric Bieniemy probably just can't sell himself as well as we want him to be sold. And I think 3, and I honestly think this might be the biggest reason of all, and Lonzo knows this better than all of us. Andy Reid runs that offense, right? Eric Bieniemy is the offensive coordinator, but Andy Reid is the man with the Waffle House menu full of plays down on the sideline, calling the plays behind the Waffle House. It is going to be hard to get a job somewhere else where your primary responsibility is to coordinate the offense and call the plays when you walk into an interview, which you may or may not be good at interviews in general. When you walk into an interview process and they go, hey, describe to us the process that you use to call your plays. And Bieniemy goes, my process is I let Andy do it. Right? So I think the conversation is tough because I think you have those 3, and I think there is some combination of the 3. Some elements of racism or prejudice at the top, some element of Eric Bieniemy cannot sell himself in an interview, and some element of we don't believe Eric Bieniemy really, truly, genuinely runs the offense in Kansas City. And when you mix those together, it makes it tough to justify the job. But there's only one thing that is going to bail us out of this conversation, and that is going to be for NFL ownership who has interviewed and passed on Eric Bieniemy, of which there are at this point, Lonzo, I believe the number is now 16 teams that have interviewed Eric Bieniemy in the past. That is more than half the league because obviously Kansas City hasn't done it yet. More than half of the available teams in the National Football League have interviewed Eric Bieniemy. All of them have passed on him. It is going to take somebody to just straight up and be honest. And it's going to suck because it's going to be like, oh, you're just fanning the flames about Eric Bieniemy. But I don't know that we're ever going to know why Eric Bieniemy can't get a job.
All right. So I've looked at the Andy Reid coaching tree, which includes some black coaches. And for the most part, I'm trying to see how successful coaches are who were under the tree. Sean McDermott, obviously, pretty successful.
Yep.
So is John Harbaugh. After that, not so much. Matt Nagy was 34-31. Peterson, 51-45. Maybe has a good shot to do more where he's at right now. Ron Rivera, 98-90-2. Okay. Todd Bowles, 34-50. Pat Shurmur, 19-46. Everyone talks about the Andy Reid tree. Leslie Frazier, 21-32-1.
So he's had what, one winning coach under him?
Two
winning coaches out from under him.
Harbaugh and Peterson.
Sure.
Or
And
not
that-
Peterson, but the McDermott.
McDermott.
Yeah.
I think that to some degree.
So you don't think they look at that and go, all these assistant coaches came out. Only two of these guys have done well. Everybody else has been pretty bad.
No, I think that's a great find from you. And I think that's absolutely another factor, right? I don't think there's any. I think what people try to do in sports sometimes, and I think we do this too. I'm guilty of this. I 100% acknowledge I'm guilty of this. But I think when there is something going on in the league, in sports, when there is something going on in sports as a whole, I think that we have a need, desire, want to do the best that we can to try to boil every problem down to one simple cause. And in our job, that makes sense because if we're going to do a segment about a thing and I got 10 to 13 minutes tops to talk about it, it's hard to attack a problem that has 4 or 5 or 6 or 7 or 8 different variables to it, right? So we're going to find the biggest one and we're going to make that the main one and we're going to attack that, which is what a lot of people do when they say the only reason Eric Bieniemy can't get a job is because he's black. Do I believe that's true? No. Do I think it's a factor? Absolutely. The only reason Eric Bieniemy can't get a job is because he can't interview well. Do I think that that's a factor? Yes. Do I think that's the number one cause? Nope. Eric Bieniemy is up against the fact that it is very well known that while he sharpens the offense, Andy Reid runs it. On most NFL teams, the coordinator is expected to dial up the plays, and you find yourself in a spot here where you're not the guy dialing up the plays, so why I'm going to hire you to a position you can't dial up the plays. But then again, there's a lot of OCs that get their first crack out of a quarterback coaching job to dial up plays for the first time, right? So do I think that's a factor? Sure. And as Lonzo just pointed out, not a lot of successful head coaches coming out from underneath the Andy Reid coaching tree. Is that a factor? Yes. Do I think it's the main reason why? No. Situations like this require conversations that include nuance. And to just go, oh, it's racism or he's a bad interview. There's no nuance to that. And unless you have the nuance in the conversation, you're not going to fix it. And we're just going to keep spinning the wheels, man. And it's disappointing. All right, let's take a break. We got more NFL quarterback discussion to get into today. We have learned that, Lonzo, there may be another veteran quarterback that is available on the trade block. Does he change the rankings that we put together yesterday? We'll find out later on in the show. Rob Lonzo and you, the Rob Brown Show is on your radio. And this, ladies and gentlemen, is the Fan Upstate. All right, guys, got a live read. Don't go anywhere. We will be right back.
agree. A recent reviewer said, the
Hello,
training made me
friends.
feel like they were training our dog versus just running the playbook.
You can't
Learn
do
how
that
they
with
can help protect
rasping your
pet
voice.
at
Come on.
invisiblefence.com.
Gotta be smooth.
Mark Ryan tells it like it is.
Coming up on a Hump Day episode of Offsides with Mark
What are you
Ryan and
doing?
Bob Jones.
What are you
Jazz
I was like, what is talking? I forgot.
I hear
my-
voices in
forgot I
my
had my
head.
smartwatch on.
Talk to
Format.
me.
So what would the best and worst case scenario be?
Thank you, Steven.
Phone lines open for you, 844-326-3663. That's the number to call in and get on the air with us. Text line is open for you at 71307, 71307. Start your text with FAN, F-A-N, FAN, F-A-N, and we will read them on the air. Texter says, no cooter, get the straight shooter, hashtag Bieniemy for OC. I got to tell you, I'm very excited about the opportunity when we do Panthers camp later this year to welcome to the show hashtag Coach Jim Bob Cooter.
No cooter. Get the straight, shooter.
Shooter. I love it. I love it. No shooter, get the cooter.
It is a concern that an offensive coordinator hasn't been hired yet. But it may be the same sort of situation that we're talking about, Andy Reid. And if so, why would Bieniemy go from there to probably the same situation
Ready for my
where
theory?
Frank Reich is probably going to call all the plays?
Here's the thing. I think Bieniemy is going to make a move, right? Because I think Eric Bieniemy, if nothing else, has probably realized by now that being the OC under Andy Reid isn't going to do a lot for your head coach job prospects.
Unless you like getting paid and getting rings.
Yeah.
I mean, there's that.
Yeah, I mean, if he just wants to load up on rings, stick with Andy for a little while. But I also know.
I'm told that winning feels good. I don't know, but I'm told. Well, actually, I do now.
There you go. There you go. My understanding is that Eric Bieniemy has had a discussion with at least one team, potentially the Washington Commanders, about moving into their OC rule. Now, keep in mind, in the National Football League, you are free to take interviews if and only if that interview is about a job that is a promotion. You cannot just take an interview for a lateral move, which if he has indeed done an interview with the Washington Commanders, it means that the Chiefs are happy to let him move on. Here would be my thought process here. And it may be correct and it may not. I don't know. But my thought process on this is going to be, if the Chiefs are willing to let Eric Bieniemy take an interview for OC elsewhere, not an upward move, a lateral move. If they are willing to let him make a lateral move interview, then they obviously either just love him so dearly that they want him to be happy no matter what, or they don't see him as that valuable, right? Which, sure, because Eric Bieniemy is going to demand a paycheck.
I'm pretty sure that I saw a quote from Andy Reid saying Eric Bieniemy deserves to be a head coach.
You absolutely did.
Yeah.
You absolutely did. And the list of coaches that have asked about Eric Bieniemy or that have endorsed Eric Bieniemy, I should say, is not short. There are other head coaches who have asked why this guy hasn't gotten his crack at it yet. But if the Chiefs are willing to let Eric Bieniemy take an interview for a lateral move to be the OC elsewhere, it means that either A, they just dearly love him and they want him to have his opportunity elsewhere. B, they just don't value him that much. Or C, They're just trying to cut some finances. Eric Bieniemy is going to be a very highly paid OC, even if he never gets an HC job, and they're clearing a little finances.
I think I saw David Tepper say yesterday that there is no salary cap on coaches.
There's not,
So, I mean,
but there are owners.
yeah, and I'm guessing the bottom line for KC doing pretty well right now and has been for a
Lonzo
while.
said so.
Exactly.
So I don't know. I don't know which of those three is true, if any of them are true. I don't know. Those are the three likely ones I came up with, but I don't know if any of them are definitively true. What I do know is that there are a couple of teams still looking for an OC. The Colts just got their head coach. They're looking for an OC. I don't think the Texans... Did the Texans hire their offensive coordinator yet? Yes. 49ers Bobby Slovic is the new OC in Houston. So they're off the table, which means there's really only a couple of jobs open at the OC right now. Which, to circle back around to Panther talk, is why I think the Panthers, as Lonzo said, haven't named an OC yet. They're not really in a hurry. There's really only 2 positions left, and there's a handful of guys that are considered prospects to fill those roles. So the Panthers aren't really in a hurry, and I think that's good. We had the conversation yesterday about the fact that Frank Reich is doing everything he said he was going to do in regards to the way he's going to fill out his coaching staff. He is not just grabbing a bunch of dudes who have been on his staff before, and he is not just grabbing a bunch of dudes who are going to be yes men who fall in line. He's gotten young coaches. He has paired them up with experienced veteran coaches. He has gotten white coaches, black coaches, minority coaches. He's got a very diverse coaching group, most of whom have not coached with Frank Reich before, as he said would be the case. So Frank Reich taking his sweet, sweet time to find the right OC doesn't surprise me all that much. In fact, if anything, and I don't think this is Rob the optimist that wants Carolina to succeed because if they win, I get paid more. Woo! But I think it's more along the lines of they've got a real opportunity here. They are a team that has an opportunity. They are a team that can afford to take some time to make sure they get the right dude that is going to fit within what they are trying to build under Frank Reich. And that's a cause for optimism as far as I am concerned. I think it's a smart move. I think it's the right move. I think it's the direction they're going in. Texter said, isn't Eric Bieniemy technically a free agent coach? Didn't his contract with Kansas City just expire? Yes. But again, my suspicion would be, unless Eric Bieniemy is just ready to move on, which he might be, like we said, it might be the case that Eric Bieniemy realizes, you know what? Being Andy Reid's OC isn't going to get me anywhere because everybody knows that he is the HC/OC, and I'm just the guy who's here to help him polish it up every week. So maybe he wants to move on. If Kansas City wanted Eric Bieniemy back, as Lonzo just pointed out, they are the Super Bowl champions. They're probably not hurting for cash right now. If they wanted him back and he wanted to be back, they probably would have already signed the extension. But they're either willing to let him walk or he is wanting to walk. Which means either he's got no interest in being there because it's not going to do anything for him, in which case we will see if he goes somewhere, he gets the play sheet and the headset to be the guy that dials him up, and he can prove himself as a play caller, A. Or B, Kansas City just lets him go because they want to make a change for whatever reason, knowing that Andy Reid's still the guy. Who was it? I think Jimmy Johnson before the Super Bowl asked Andy Reid in an interview, how much longer do you want to do this? And Andy Reid was like, I don't know, but I'm good right now. And he goes, all right, let's say you win the Super Bowl tonight. What's next? And his answer without missing a beat, Lonzo, was win another one.
Yeah, I just out of nowhere they started asking him about retiring. You didn't hear that last year. Just 1 year, and suddenly you want him to retire, or maybe they do want him to retire. I don't know. Were you surprised by all that retirement talk?
It was a little out of place.
Because he hasn't hinted at that at all. So that was weird.
It was weird. You're not wrong. Texter says, I'm optimistic on the coaching hires in Carolina, but also cautious because remember how bananas everyone was when Joe Brady was coming to town. Good coaches need direction. Hashtag no rules. Get it? No RHULE, no rules. Hashtag no rules with an H.
I'm trying to ignore it.
No rules.
It's
a good joke.
We're moving on to Frank Reich now.
Yes, I do remember how excited everyone was, myself included, when Joe Brady got hired. And as I said, when he got fired and maintained until today, the beep show that was the Carolina Panthers when Joe Brady was the offensive coordinator was everything to do with Matt Rule and nothing to do with Joe Brady. Joe Brady's going to get another crack at the OC spot in the NFL one day. And I would be willing to bet you a small portion of my paycheck that he's going to be successful. Joe Brady, Lonzo, just wasn't OOU. And if you ain't OOU, you ain't nothing.
I'm wondering how I could get a small portion of your paycheck. Get me a little something. You know what I'm saying?
My paycheck is a small portion of your paycheck, Lonzo. Carolina is now an Outback Steakhouse. No rules, just Reich. Oh, that's beautiful, Joe. Outstanding, Joe. Very well done. No rules, just Reich. Excellent work. I love it. Let's take a break. Come back here in just a minute. There is another veteran quarterback that is speculated to be on the trade block. Does it change up? We asked you guys yesterday, and a lot of you responded. We asked you yesterday to rank the preference of quarterbacks that you would like for the Carolina Panthers next year. We did not know this veteran quarterback might be on the block. Does he change your order? We'll address that when we come back on the Rob Brown Show in the Fan Upstate.
Kevin, stop bullying me about my nose impediment. Also, Trey, we're not going to comment because we don't want to influence you in any way. Do your thing.
Trey, don't be nervous, dude. Go in and kill that thing.
No,
Man.
don't influence him in any way.
I'm not influencing him at all.
That's what I'm saying.
I'm just saying, kill the segment. You're gonna be fine, man.
Do your own thing.
Yeah.
We have nothing to do with anything that you do other than to tell you we hope you do well.
I hope you kill it, Trey. I will tell you that there are absolutely segments, not days. There are segments that I still get nervous before I start because I'm like, okay, I put the segment together. Is it going to work? And there is some apprehension to it. But once you start talking, Trey, all that goes out the window. You won't think about it anymore. And you'll come up with things like no rules, just right. I love that. Joe, you need to trademark that and get the t-shirts printed, buddy. I'd buy one.
By the way, I don't get nervous before a segment in this room because I work with Rob Brown and it's like radiant over there. I bask and I go with it. Only time I'm ever nervous before a segment is Christmas karaoke special. That's the only time I'm ever nervous. Because it's either going to go really well or it's going to really be bad.
True, but I'm on that show, so
yeah, I do.
You know it's going to be good. Me and my musical fortitude.
It was amazing. One of the highlights, dude. Have you ever did a show or did a segment where it was so good that you thought, I can't do this anymore because I can't top that? That's it. I just need to stop.
Really?
It's all downhill after this. I kind of feel that way about 12 days because 12 Days of Christmas it turned out so
It was
good.
pretty solid. Good news is you have 10 more months to come up with
Mostly
something.
because of Tim not getting it. And then when he finally got it, there were so many things going on in that. And you and Chris just trying out. It was so good. Hudson, the Raiders are not going to win as long as the Kansas City Chiefs have Patrick Mahomes. Although they didn't win that much before that either. I know they won a Super Bowl, but
Yes, we do have to talk about the most famous bowl cut in sports, S. No Mas. Mark Davis has given himself the Bic treatment.
okay, there are actual nose flutes. Kevin, I'm getting one, and you're going to pay. Now I got to look up Mark Davis with the haircut.
Reports circulating that the Tennessee Titans may be willing to part with Ryan Tannehill if the right trade offer were to come in. My question here is, does Ryan Tannehill enter anywhere on your preferred quarterback rankings? Does Ryan, yeah, you know, as we mentioned yesterday, I asked you guys to give us the ranking of quarterbacks. 2 in the draft, Stroud and Young. 2 later in the draft, Richardson and Levis. 2 free agents, Carr and Garoppolo. And 2 that would have to be traded for, Rodgers and Jackson, if Lamar Jackson's available. Now you can add a 3rd to that portion of the list. And that, of course, is Ryan Tannehill from Tennessee.
Wait. Are you really asking about Ryan Tannehill?
Yeah.
No.
Ryan Tannehill
No.
is coming off of a year where he completed 65.2% of his passes. That is a career high. He went 13 TDs to 6 INTs, so he has a better than 2-to-1 ratio. It's not great. He had a season-long QB rating of 94.6. There's a lot of quarterbacks who did worse than that. And over 2,500 yards through the air.
How many games did they win?
The Titans ended their season at. I just blanked on the. I mean, they went on a 7-game losing streak.
I was going to say.
Start with that.
I was going to say, didn't they lose the division because they couldn't win anymore?
Yes, they ended up with a final total tally of 7-10. They lost 7 in a row to end it against the playoff-bound Eagles, Super Bowl-bound Eagles, the playoff-bound Jags, the playoff-bound Chargers, the Texans, the playoff-bound Cowboys, and the playoff-bound Jags. So of the 7 that they lost to end the season, 6 of them were to playoff teams, 1 of them to the NFC East champions, 1 of them to the team that went in and curb stopped the Buccaneers, 1 of them that had another playoff team on the ropes. What was it, 27-7 or whatever? The Chargers had Jacks down, and 2 of them to the team who overcame that deficit in the playoffs.
Is Tannehill better than any quarterback that was on the Panthers team?
Ryan
this last
Tannehill
year?
is better than Sam Darnold. Yes.
By how much?
Enough that I would prefer Ryan Tannehill to Sam Darnold.
That's not really saying a whole lot. Ryan Tannehill or Lamar Jackson?
Oh, Lamar Jackson.
I mean, all the people you listed yesterday, including possible draft picks, you want Ryan Tannehill over any of them?
Not necessarily. I
Okay.
don't want Ryan Tannehill over CJ Stroud or Bryce Young. But I'd also be willing to say that, granted he's 34, I would take Ryan Tannehill for 2 years probably over Will Levis, to be honest with you. And probably over Anthony Richardson. The only thing that holds me up about Richardson is I know he's got the physical traits to be Lamar Jackson. I just don't know if he has the mental capacity to be Lamar Jackson. Don't know if he's got the poise to be Lamar Jackson. But I would say Ryan Tannehill over anybody out of the draft that's not CJ or Bryce would be fine. I also think you're getting him at a bargain, right? If Tennessee's willing to let him go with a trade, you're probably picking Ryan Tannehill up for a 3rd rounder, 4th rounder, and 1 draft pick, plus a middle-of-the-road contract offer. And by the way, getting Ryan Tannehill doesn't mean you can't bring that guy in and not still draft a quarterback in the 1st round, right? I can go get Tannehill and still get Anthony Richardson or Will Levis. Will Levis with 1 year under Ryan Tannehill might not be a bad plan. He is your, 2021 NFL Comeback Player of the Year. In 2022, he went for 2,500 yards on 65.2% completion percentage, which I believe was, if it wasn't Tannehill's career high, it was like his 2nd best season ever. 13 touchdowns to 6 picks, but keep in mind, as Will just pointed out, as a Titans fan, he said the Titans can barely go a season without 85% of their roster getting injured. I made a joke to my buddy Jonathan, who's a big Titans guy. At one point in the season, the Titans' injured roster could have taken on a couple of really bad NFL teams and won, right? Ryan Tannehill did not have but maybe 6 games where he had his full complement of wide receivers. So take it for what it's worth, man.
What about last year or the year before?
Year before, he was the NFL Comeback Player of the Year. I mean, I'd say that's okay. And it's not MVP, but he stood out. I'm just saying, a couple of guys I would take Ryan Tannehill as a starter over includes Sam Darnold on that list. Let's take a break. We'll come back, get to hour number 2. Is the USC Lady Gamecock basketball team this year the greatest women's college basketball team of all time? The answer is yes. I'll tell you why. So will Kim Mulkey, LSU's head coach, and plenty more on the Rob Brown Show in the Fan Upstate. Correct. And A.J. Brown showed you exactly why in the Super Bowl. That is a fact. That is a fact.
serious allergic reactions and increased risk of infections or lower ability to fight when they occur. Before treatment, your doctor should check for infection and tuberculosis. Tell your doctor if you have an infection or symptoms, such as fever, sweats, chills, muscle aches, or cough, or if you plan to or recently received a vaccine. With Skyrizi, you could achieve 90% clearer skin. Ask your doctor about the #1 dermatologist-prescribed biologic in psoriasis and visit Skyrizi.com or call 1-866-SKYRIZI to learn more.
The NCAA Division I Women's Basketball Championship. Welcome to Fandom 101. You think you got the heart to get your spot for the Sweet 16 and Elite Eight? Here's your assignment. Lesson 1. Go big for everybody. 2. Marking boost. And 3. Attendance is encouraged, but passion is mandatory. The regional round, March 24th to 27th at Barnes Decor Wellness Arena in Greenville, South Carolina. Buy your seats today at ncaa.com/WBD tickets. Class dismissed.
Join USC Upstate for their annual homecoming tailgate Saturday, February 25th, 11 to 3 p.m. This family-friendly event includes B93.7 and The Fan on-site basketball, a kid zone, and reunion tailgate tickets. Info at uscupstate.edu/homecoming.
I always wanted to learn Spanish, but I never thought I'd have the time. Then I discovered Babbel.
Babbel's lessons are fun. They only take like 10 or 15 minutes, and in 3 weeks, presto, you're starting to speak another language. Like magic.
I love that Babbel's lessons aren't just robots talking. They're voiced by native speakers, so you get the pronunciation just right. And they're designed by real language teachers. So you learn how to have real-world conversations, things you'll actually use.
Incredible. Babbel, I'm ready to start having real conversations in French.
There's all kinds of ways to learn. Use Babbel's podcasts or games or videos. You can even join live classes with a language teacher.
If you want to learn a language, there's no faster, easier, better way than
Babbel. 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 Évidemment. Go to Babbel.com to try for free. That's Babbel.com. Babbel.com. For the ones finding new ways to ensure the job always gets done. For the ones wearing many hats. For the ones who are hands-on, even too far away.
Wow, that's taking a long time to save.
Business moving forward. We are
Weird.
Azure, offering professional-grade industrial supplies, plus real-time product availability and access to experts ready to answer your toughest questions. Call clickgranger.com or just stop by. Granger, for the ones who get it done.
Searching for fun ways to spend your tax return? Boats for cats. Oh, flotation devices for cats. Don't waste it all on something silly. Spend smarter with Straight Talk. Get our Silver Unlimited plan for $45 a month with unlimited high-speed data and with nationwide 5G. Plus,
You know, Steven, I'm finding it really hard to not say something right now. Look at it, Rob.
I hope he does. Like him and Bruce hitting
No,
the
you're
links.
not, yeah, okay. So you are getting it. I'm sure you met Nick if he shows up. Look out. I don't think he'll be on there, but who knows?
New time. Now 19 noon, only on the Fan Upstate. And now CBS
Arnold Palmer will show up as Mr. Freeze.
Listen on your phone. Download the Odyssey app and search
Well, that's not good.
Your smart speaker. Just say play 97 The Fan Upstate. On your HD radio at WFBC HD3. There's just one more thing. And on your computer at the Fan.
fanupstate.com. Upstate. WORD Spotlight.
WFBC HD3. The official sports voice of
Dun dun. of the Rob Brown Show goes now. This is the Fan Upstate. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. I am Rob Brown, the great one. Colonel Grudge himself sits on the other side of the metaphorical glass this AM. Texter said just minutes ago, Ryan Tannehill is incrementally better than Sam Darnold. However, Darnold played for worst case Gase, and Matt never ruled anything. So I don't know. I'd say it's status quo.
It's so easy, and in some cases, it's probably right.
It's so easy. It's so
All right, who sang that?
The Archies. I genuinely don't know who sang that
I
song.
believe it was Juice Newton. Anyway, it's so easy to blame it on the coaches. Sometimes the quarterback's just not really that good. Just saying.
The first one that came up was Linda Ronstadt.
No, you're right. It's Linda Ronstadt. I was wrong.
Big fan. Just didn't know that was her.
Definitely two. They definitely look different. So I mean, yeah. I'm leaving. I got musical knowledge wrong, but you got it wrong first.
I got it wrong first.
Yeah.
I would argue I got it wrong worse as well.
Well, because different eras, the Archies sang "Sugar, Sugar."
Do, 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 do. Oh, honey, honey. Do, do, do. Okay. So, anyway, I have maintained and continue to maintain there is the possibility that Samuel Darnold could end up being an okay quarterback. But I heard a conversation earlier this week, and I'm gonna compare two athletes here. One from the NFL, one from the NBA. Lonzo, if I asked you to rank NBA players currently playing and put them in a category of elite, really good, pretty good, good, average, below average, terrible, where would you put Anthony Davis on that list? Like at best, really good, right?
Well, I'm just curious. Is there a oft injured category?
No, you just got to rank him somewhere.
Based
on his career as a whole, where would you put Anthony?
What was it? Pretty good.
I would go elite, one step below elite, the best, really good, good, average, below average, or poor.
I'm going to go really good.
Really good. Okay, I accept that. Anthony Davis has all the tools at his disposal to be elite. Anthony Davis has all the tools at his disposal to be an all-timer, but none of us consider him there. Now, as Lonzo pointed out, a good chunk of the reason why is injuries. He has been banged up quite a bit. But even when AD is on the floor, AD is not the type of guy that can take over a basketball game. When he was in New Orleans and the Pelicans made their final playoff run before he left, they didn't make that run because of AD. They made that run because of some of the guys that were around AD lifting him up, not the other way around. Here's the problem with Anthony Davis. I could put Anthony Davis on the perfect team that is built for Anthony Davis right now. And I don't think Anthony Davis would reach elite status. And the reason why is dude has been in the league for 11 seasons at this point. Lonzo, if you do anything for 11 years, you're going to be pretty set, right? You're going to be pretty ingrained in how you attack it. Now, there might be aspects of it that you would be able to improve upon. But Anthony Davis is on year number 11 in the association right now. And he has never risen to elite status, right? He was supposed to get to LA with the Lakers alongside LeBron.
Wait. You don't understand. It's LeBron's fault. You forgot to mention it's LeBron's fault.
I've heard it. That exact argument. I've heard that argument. Anthony Davis was supposed to be elite, and when you paired him up with LeBron, he was supposed to be part of the super duo, and they were looking for number 3, which they assumed was going to be Russell Westbrook. And it just never worked out. or it just hasn't worked out so far. Now, I do think that there is a part of that comes down to the fact that AD has been in the league for 11 years. And no matter what situation you put him in, at the end of the day, AD is just AD. He's been doing it over a decade at this point. You're not going to get some serious jump in his ability to control a basketball game. And if you don't believe me, go back and look at the games where LeBron hasn't played. That Lakers team was built around LeBron and AD. And in the games Bron hasn't played due to injury or load management, Anthony Davis should be walking those dogs for 30, right? He should be like a 30-10-5 guy in games where there's no LeBron, but he's not. In fact, his numbers go down without LeBron. Sam Darnold has been stuck under Adam, I'm going to use the texter's word, no case Gase. He has been stuck under Matt never ruled anything. Yes, I absolutely believe that Sam Darnold has been set up to fail. Lonzo and I have been in situations held together where we got set up to fail. And we know what that's like. You still attack it like a dog, because if you're set up to fail and you succeed, then you go tell everybody about what you did. It's frustrating. Sam Darnold has been set up to fail and has attacked it. But Adam Gase was a terrible head coach. Matt Rule was a terrible head coach. And so there is just the faintest part of me, that thinks, Frank Reich has been a very good quarterbacks coach over his career. Maybe Sam Darnold plus one of the project quarterbacks, Levis or Richardson at the 9 spot. Hell, Matt Corral still on the roster. Maybe with Frank Reich, the quarterback whisperer, I give Sam Darnold one more crack, right? But the problem is Sam Darnold has been in the league for a hot minute now and not been able to get anything done. He was drafted in 2018. He has spent 4 years getting ruined by bad coaches in Gase and Rule. Is it too late, right? I do not envy Scott Fitterer's position here, because there's no guaranteed win at quarterback, right? Of everybody available, there's no guaranteed win. Aaron Rodgers is 39. We have seen the drop-off. It's not a catastrophic drop-off. It's not a drop-off that eliminates. So, he's one season removed from winning league MVP. But we've seen a drop-off. Lamar Jackson. You bring in Lamar. I think Lamar's probably the closest to a guarantee of success, but it's also going to come at the cost of $250 million and a massive salary cap hit, probably bigger than the one that Patrick Mahomes is eating up in Kansas City right now. None of the draft quarterbacks, and I'm including Bryce Young and CJ Stroud, are guaranteed hits. Some of them are more likely than the others, but none of them are guaranteed. And none of the free agent quarterbacks, Garoppolo or Carr, are guaranteed. All of them have different levels of risk and upside. All of them come at much different acquisition costs that have to be leveraged into the conversation about who to go get. I don't envy the folks who have to make that situation, that decision in that situation. So there is a part of me that thinks maybe you get a Richardson or a Levis at pick number 9, and you give Sam Darnold one crack at it. And when I say crack, I'm not talking about even guaranteeing a full season as the starter. I'm saying you're coming in, you're going to work with Frank Reich as the only veteran on the roster. We're going to give you a crack to rejuvenate the career. Frank Reich has rejuvenated a couple of careers as a quarterback's coach. We're going to give you a crack at rejuvenating the career. But the minute one of the rooks outperforms you, we make the switch.
By the way, speaking of Frank Reich, he has just added Park Frazier to his staff as passing game coordinator.
Which means that Jim Bob Cooter is still in rotation for the OC. Jim Bob Cooter! Let's see. Parks Frazier has been he was the interim offensive coordinator for the Colts this year when Jeff Saturday took over as the HC. He was the assistant quarterbacks coach for the Colts the year before that. He was their offensive quality control coach the year before that. From 2018 to 19, he was Frank Reich's assistant to the head coach. And that is the extent of his coaching experience so far. But they're effectively bringing him in as kind of like as a cleanup guy for Frank Reich, right? Like a dude that he can trust to help him get the little things done. Now, this is the first of the yes men that Frank Reich has brought in. And I only say that because Frazier is married to Caroline Kahn, a former reporter for the Indianapolis Colts, and the couple were wed by officiant Frank Reich. So very clearly, this is Frank's first maybe yes man, though I don't know the relationship personally. Maybe. I got guys in my life that I love just because they're buttholes and will tell me to my face that I'm doing something dumb. So I don't know what their relationship is.
I've been accused of having yes men before. No, I've never had one of those before. I don't know what that feels like. Or maybe you bring in Parks because you're actually going to call the plays and you need a guy who understands your offense.
Having a yes man underneath you when you're in a position of authority is kind of like doing drugs. Like it feels real good when you do it. But then when you look back at it a few years later, you're like, well, that didn't help at all.
There are no yes men in radio. Everybody wants to fight.
Especially me. I would like to rage.
It's fight night.
Hey, tomorrow on the show, about 25 hours from right now, Fight Club with the great one. Got a lot of wrestling to get to.
Including Elimination Chamber, which happens this Saturday.
Yes, indeed. Anyway, so I don't wonder if Darnold maybe doesn't get one more crack under an actual quarterback coach based on the fact that you're going to get him on a relatively cheap deal. There's not going to be much competition for him on the market. It saves up some salary cap for some other FA options. And if nothing else, he gives you a stopgap until whatever rookie quarterback is on the roster highest next year, whether it's Corral or somebody out of the draft, is ready to get their start.
Do you want a reminder on your staff of the bad moves that Carolina has made at quarterback? I just don't think you do. I'd rather in this case, you mentioned Tannehill earlier. I would, if I'm going to bring someone in of that caliber, I'd rather have him because he's new. Darnold, you know what you got. And he's a reminder of a bad regime and bad choices. Not his fault, but he's still a reminder. And if you want the fans to know that you're going in a new direction and you're going to bring winning back to Carolina, you don't keep the figurehead of that.
You ready for my strategy in this if I'm Carolina? Literally pin every bad thing from the last 2 years on Matt Rule. Honestly. Do you really want a reminder of the bad quarterback decisions? No. Those were Matt Rule's decisions, not the Panthers, right? Sam Darnold is objectively a failure during his time at Carolina. Sure, absolutely, except for that's Matt Rule's fault, right? I pin everything on Matt Rule, including the failure of Sam Darnold to develop. When Darnold first got to Carolina, go back to last year. When Sam Darnold first, not this past season, but the season before that, when Sam Darnold first got to Carolina, Alonzo, he led the NFL in a lot of statistics, including rushing touchdowns for like 6 weeks. There's something there. And granted, it's early in the season. Defenses are kind of starting to find their chemistry and their timing and all that. But for about 6 weeks, Sam Darnold led the league in a lot of offensive statistics that were good as a quarterback. Then it all went downhill. Blame Matt Rule. It's all Matt Rule's fault. He tanked everything. He ruined our rookies. He ruined Sam Darnold. Him and Adam Gase are the reason Darnold's not there. Keep the market down with Darnold. Run it back and let a rookie quarterback develop under him. Now, The only thing that throws me off is how much more do I have to pay for Jimmy Garoppolo, right? If I can get Jimmy G for $5 or $6 million more than Sam Darnold, then hell yeah, I make the switch. Thanks for your time. Thanks for your efforts, Sammy D. Good luck in your future endeavors. Jimmy Garoppolo gives you all of the same benefits with a couple of playoff wins under his belt as well. A better resume overall. But if he's too expensive, if Jackson's unavailable, if Rodgers has no interest in Carolina, and if you're not selling the farm for Stroud or Young, Sammy Darnold's not a terrible fallback option. As a gatekeeper, as a stopgap, as a bridge quarterback, he's not the worst option on the table right now, in my opinion. All right, let's take a break. Let's get away from this. We've done a lot of Carolina quarterback stuff over the past 2 days. When we come back here in just a minute from right now, I am going to ask you, if you are not a NASCAR fan, for a favor when the Daytona 500 rolls on Sunday. I'm going to compare the Daytona 500 to one of America's two most favoritist sporting events and see if I can sell you on giving it a shot. I'll give you some tips and tricks on how to watch the 500 for you non-NASCAR fans and see if I can get any of you to text me on Monday and go, you were right, Rob, that was fun. We'll do that next. My name is Rob Brown. He's the great one. This is the Rob Brown Show on the Fan Upstate.
I seem to have misplaced my phone. I'll have to go see if I can find that.
From the West of WOLD weather center, here's the 6 most trusted forecast on the Fan Upstate. This morning, rain showers late bottom of 61. Tonight's a chance for rainfall below 51. Thursday, chance for rain showers late bottom of 69 degrees. Friday, chance for rain early becoming 62 and sunny for the weekend. The meteorologist Jennifer Buchitsky on the Fan Upstate. Currently, it's 50.
I'm just equipped to bet to it. One of the best ways to make money in betting college basketball isn't necessarily to find winners against the spread, but instead to seek out losers. And no one's lost more against the spread this year than the Tulsa Golden Hurricane. Yes, they covered exactly 3 of their 24 games this year. That is a shocking 12.5% coverage. It is safe to say, at this point, fading Tulsa is a profitable move. I'm just a crick, but you get the vote.
It's not easy being the one everyone counts on to keep your operation running, no matter the weather or supply chain hiccup. But we get you, Brandon in Buffalo, Maria in Miami, and Jules in Troy, taking control of everything that's under your control. At Grainger, we're here for you with high-quality supplies for every industry, plus real-time product availability and access to experts ready to help. Call Grainger.com or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones.
I don't want to go to bed at night dreading waking up in the morning knowing that I'm going to feel like a rusty lawn chair, getting out of bed and getting opened up and not being able to really move.
Right back, stream, don't go anywhere.
For former college and
All right, dudes and dudettes, we are back. Thanks for hanging out. Boogity, boogity, boogity. Let's go drinking, boys. I mean racing. Why not both? Por qué no los dios?
Sponsored by Corley Plumbing, Air and Electric.
At Corley Plumbing, Air and Electric, we offer same-day scheduling to meet your needs. Call Corley Plumbing, Air and Electric today, or schedule live and book online. CorleyPro.com. That's CorleyPro.com.
Coming up on a Hump Day episode of Offside with Mark Ryan and Pete Rizzo, the SEC, as we predicted in November, looks to be going to a 3-6-6 schedule format. So what would the best and worst case scenarios be for South Carolina and St. Louis? We'll give you a holidays power ranking, tweet serum, and so much more.
Number one for real afternoon sports talk.
Offsides with Mark Ryan.
Every day I think, well, it's new for somebody.
The Rob Brown Show.
Boogity, boogity, boogity. Let's go racing, boys. Sunday is the running of the Daytona 500. It is the crown jewel of NASCAR races. It is the one race that if you ask most drivers, they would love to take a checkered flag in and be able to call themselves a Daytona 500 champion. It is also arguably the most entertaining race of the year. Now, they run another super speedway race at Daytona later on in the season. They run two of them at Talladega. There is the potential for NASCAR to add another super speedway race in the future. And I hope they do. They're the best races. But the Daytona 500 is the best of them because, as mentioned, that's the checker flag every racer dreams of taking, right? Like they all want a NASCAR season championship, of course. They all want to win at the legendary tracks like Darlington, like Charlotte. But winning the 500 is kind of the jewel. Go back and take a look, for those of you who aren't NASCAR fans, at what it looked like after Dale Earnhardt Sr. won his first 500. Every single person in NASCAR came out from behind the wall on pit road to acknowledge number 3 because of how much that race mattered. Now, if you're not a big racing guy, big NASCAR guy, big NASCAR gal, let me draw a comparison that kind of explains a little bit about why I love this race so far. Lonzo, if I asked you, and I haven't prepped Lonzo for this, it's just a basic question, and I think he's gonna drive where I'm going. If I had to ask you what America's favorite 2 sporting events are, what would be your stab at them?
Super Bowl and WrestleMania, duh.
Okay, top 3. That's fair. Top 3.
Super Bowl and the College Football National Championship.
Mine would be the Super Bowl and March Madness.
By the way, WrestleMania is number 2 for me.
Fair enough. I would say the Super Bowl and March Madness are probably the top 2, right? Because even with March Madness, you get people who have not watched a dribble of college basketball a year, but they fill out a bracket and now they're completely engaged in the tournament.
Yeah, that's about office pools. That's really
sure.
what that's all about.
But it still is one of the most exciting things for people, because even if you don't follow college basketball, most of us are still going to fill out a bracket and try to beat our coworkers, try to win a little cash in the office pool, et cetera, et cetera.
Especially those of us who take pride in beating people who think they're experts when we only look at the thing around March.
Right. He's talking about me.
No. I am the blonde in the corner cube who has no idea what's going on. That's me.
I used to do I had 2 years in a row. I used to do a bracket pool at my old show. I might do it again this year. We'll see. Where I would bring Kelly. She was our traffic manager, right? She ran the station as far as getting all the commercials and everything in. I used to have Kelly fill out a bracket. Kelly did not care about sports in the least. And I would sit with Kelly, and when she would fill out a bracket, she would ask me questions. I'd be like, ask me anything you want, fill out a bracket, and we gave a prize to anybody who could beat her. We did like keychains and stuff. They weren't like big prizes, but Kelly would ask questions like,
don't get any ideas, listeners. We don't have anything.
Yeah, we don't have so we got nothing for you.
Absolutely nothing.
She would ask questions like, what's their mascot? What's their team colors? What's the name of their arena?
How often did you have to look it up? Because some of those small schools
you get to play in
know.
tournament games, what's Elon's mascot? I don't know. Eagles. It starts with E. It makes sense.
No, that's not.
I know it's not. I'm just making a joke.
Used to be the Fighting Christians, which was
what are they now?
Pretty cool. At the Phoenix, I think.
The Phoenix.
I think.
Elon is Elon University mascot. The Phoenix. Yeah, you're right. Good call.
There was a big deal when they
switched it.
Yes.
Yeah. So anyway, Kelly would fill out a bracket and she would win. And what you would see out of Kelly is somebody for 11 months of the year could not care about sports. Suddenly, she's like, hey, Rob, where are we meeting for round 1 to watch the opening games, right? Like she was in now because she had something on the line. The Daytona 500 has everything in a 2 hour and 45-ish minute race that NASCAR tucks in throughout all of March. It has heavy favorites, big time underdog, blue blood programs taking on the who's that of racing. It has teams that have incredible amounts of equipment up against teams that maybe have one car, right? And they're hoping not only for a win, but just survive this race so that car is ready to go if we get a chance to race in another one. It has major upsets. I cannot tell you how many Daytona 500s my favorite driver or biggest rival was taken out in like 3 laps. You spend 3 months getting ready for the Daytona 500. You get geeked up when the green drops and then your favorite driver's bumped in 3 laps. You remember back when Virginia was a 1 seed and lost to the 16 seed UMBC or UMCB or CUBM or whatever? They have that in every race. They have office pools available, right? There's fantasy NASCAR if you want to get something in on the line. It has crazy action. For every dunk in March, NASCAR has got 2 guys throwing 2 3,300-pound chunks of steel into each other at 196 miles an hour down a straightaway into a turn. Everything that March Madness gives you over 3 weeks, Daytona gives you in 2 hours and 45 minutes. But the best thing about it is, just like March Madness, when we get into late February and the conference tournament starts up, which they're like 2 weeks away from the conference tournaments. You are starting next week, not just on this show, but really everywhere. You are going to start having an inundation of college basketball prep talk thrown at you. You're going to turn into Sports Center and you're going to start seeing college basketball games with more regularity. You're going to tune into this show and you're going to start getting breakdowns of the conference tournaments and who got the easiest route and the toughest job. You're going to get inundated with all that. And the point is, if you fill out a bracket for March Madness and you're not a college basketball guy or gal, you are going to have so many resources to give yourself the best crack at filling out a winning bracket, even if you haven't watched a dribble of college basketball yet. The Daytona 500, if you are in any way, shape, or form remotely interested in NASCAR, is going to provide you with the same thing. Starting tonight, by the way, because tonight is the first step of Daytona 500 qualifying. There are some massive names that have got to qualify their way in. Lonzo, you know who Travis Pastrana is by chance?
Yes.
Travis Pastrana, the legendary stunt driver and BMXer,
Ex-gamer.
ex-gamer, is going to be trying to race his way into the Daytona 500 tonight for 2311 Motorsports. Now, you may not be a big NASCAR guy, but I'm very curious, though, to see if a guy who has primarily drifted sports cars in the past can give a good run at the power of a NASCAR stock car, right? I'm intrigued by that. Jimmy bleeping Johnson. Yes, not the NFL head coach, but the seven-time NASCAR Sprint Cup champion has announced that he's going to try to qualify and run in the 500. Now, he said he's not running a full season, but if Jimmy Johnson wins the Daytona 500, you got to think, hey, I'm in the playoffs out of the gate. Why not, right? Why not? Maybe I will run it back. Maybe I'll try to get number 8 this year. Took a year off, now I'm back. Maybe. We'll see. But with all of those things happening, you are going to be inundated with resources to learn this sport. Nothing is a better substitute for somebody trying to learn and invest in a sport than experiencing it, right? Than experiencing it, than jumping on board, than watching, than learning, than investing. I have told this story many times. I got into NASCAR because when I was in college, not a NASCAR guy, I was in the Tau Kappa Epsilon fraternity. Shout out to all my teaks listening right now. My fraternity was widely diverse. We had guys from Europe and Asia, South America, black guys, white guys, Asian guys, Hispanic guys, gay guys, straight guys. Like, it was wild. And a couple of good old Southern boys thrown in the mix. One of them was a big-time NASCAR guy by the name of Mark. I really wasn't. My uncles all love NASCAR, but it never really caught on me. And he's like, hey, man, come watch. In fact, it was the Daytona 500, if I recall correctly. He said, come watch the race with me. I'll buy the beer. I just want you to come hang out. Never watched it before. I had no interest in it. I'm like, all right, fine. And the dude started learning me the sport, right? Talking to me about pit stops. Explaining to me what that little thing they stuck in the back window and cranked it around was. Adding and taking wedge out of the car. Camber on the tires and why different cars have different cambers. How engine packages are put together. And all of a sudden, my view on the sport went from go fast, turn left, yo! To, damn, dude, there's a million different things operating to get these cars up to the top possible speed. And all of them are centered around these guys in the car trying to keep them off of other cars and out of the walls at 150, 180, 190, 200 miles per hour. And once I learned how the sport worked, all of a sudden I was far more interested in it. I'm going to say this, like any other sport. If you don't start watching a sport at the beginning of the season, the likelihood you stick with that sport goes down dramatically. How many guys are college basketball guys but don't get into it in March because by the time their attention shifts to college basketball with the ending of football in early February, it's like, I don't know what the hell's going on. I don't know who the stars are. I don't know what the teams are. I don't know who's doing what. I don't know who's in control of the conferences. I don't know what the seedings look like. And it's too late to catch up now. It's too late, baby. Yeah, it's too late. Now's your chance to jump in. It's a great sport. It is the sport's crown event, right? Like, if you don't watch the NFL all year, you're still going to watch the Super Bowl. This is the Super Bowl for NASCAR. And NASCAR right now is doing a better job at outreach to new fans than I think any other sport outside of soccer in this country. And part of that is providing a wealth of resources for people who have no knowledge of the sport to get it. watch the race coming up on Sunday. If you just want to watch it for the chaos and destruction, watch it for the chaos and destruction. It will be in leaps and bounds. It'll be there for you in bunches. But if you want to learn the sport, this is the sport to do it. This is the event to do it. This is the event that is going to give you the most background information, the most technical knowledge, the biggest insight into who the drivers are and why they may or may not be the most appealing to you, who the owners are, how the teams work, the setup. They're going to walk you through how the qualifying process works starting tonight all the way up to the green flag on Sunday. If you have questions about the sport, send them to me on Twitter at The Rob Brown Show. You can drop them into the message box on the Facebook page for the Fan Upstate. You can email them to me at rob.brown@thefanupstate.com. If you think you have any passing interest, this Sunday is the day to park it in front. I'm asking for 2 hours and 45-ish minutes. You have watched movies longer than that. 2 hours and 45-ish minutes. Hit me with any questions you have, because I do not want, in the heart of NASCAR country, anybody to feel like they might be missing out on the single best sporting event in racing, in my opinion, but definitely the crown jewel of NASCAR season. This event's going to be unreal. And this year might be as good as it's ever been before, because I do not think in this race that there is a heavy favorite. Jimmy Johnson might have been the pick in years past, but he didn't race last year. Can he knock the ring rust off that quick? There's no more Jeff Gordons. Kyle Busch is on a new team alongside Austin Dillon, a guy who's very good at racing. They are now teamed up. Kyle Busch now moving from Toyota to Chevy. There's more Chevys out there, and drivers with similar cars are more likely to help each other out for a variety of reasons. You got Ross Chastain, who made a real push into the playoffs at the end of last year. Could we see Chastain do something special? Chase Elliott is looking to show that he's not the flash in the pan, man. He's got something going for him special. This race is the one to get into if you are in any way interested, and I want to help with that. So if you have any questions, if you want to know something about the way the sports work, I don't claim to know everything. NASCAR is one of the hardest sports to really be a true technical fan, because there's a million moving parts, and frankly, I don't know how the hell a car engine works. I put gas in it, I turn the key forward, and if it does anything but go, then I got to get somebody else. But I know how the race works. So if you got any questions about it, if you are at all remotely interested, do not miss Sunday and think, oh, I'll catch up later in the year. No, you aren't. No, you won't. There are boring races later in the year. I will admit that as a NASCAR fan. If you want in, Sunday's the day to do it. Send your questions to rob.brown@thefanupstate, rob.brown@thefanupstate.com, and I'll be more than happy to walk you through an introductory NASCAR for Dummies course. I am Rob. He is Lonzo, and we are back after this on the Rob Brown Show in the Fan Upstate.
smile without breaking the bank. My Affordable Braces has been offering braces starting at $39.95 for years. New technology means fewer visits. Save even more with insurance plans like MetLife and Delta Dental. Schedule your free consultation, exam, and x-rays today at a clinic near you. Greenville, Spartanburg, and Anderson. MyAffordableBraces.com.
Tired of getting dinged by monthly fees on your checking account? You need Simple Checking from Home Trust Bank. With Simple Checking, you get all the essential checking services for free, including 100% online access and a free Visa debit card. It's everything you need from a checking account, but no hoops, no surprises, no monthly fees. Stop by today or call 800-627-1632. Simple Checking at Home Trust. Ready for what's next. Member FDIC, Equal Housing Lender.
Hi, I'm Andy. If you don't know me, it's probably because I'm not famous. But I did start a men's grooming company called Harry's. The idea for Harry's came out of a frustrating experience I had buying razor.
Thanks, Jesse. It is awesome.
Overpriced, overdesigned, and out of touch. At Harry's, our approach is simple. Here's our secret. We make sharp, durable blades and sell them at honest prices for as low as $2 each. We care about quality so much that we do some crazy things. Like buy a world-class German blade. Obsessed with every detail means we're confident I'll 100% quality.
It's one of the things that I really don't like to do.
What's that? Interact with people?
Yes. What are you doing?
Put that corner light into the corner because it's super dark and creepy up there.
Well, maybe it's because of the blind being
No, it's because
down.
there's no light.
It's because the blind. You open the blind and it's gonna. You just broke it. Yeah, you can't. That's how those are connected. The way you turned it. That's how the power is up in the track somehow, and when you If you tuned in for Rob's Booty, you're welcome. That's not going to work.
I just need more plates.
Or you could like open the blind. I mean, it's just
We're
worth.
blind. Then it just blinds out everything.
Well, okay.
The problem with the blind is that it backlights me and then my face is dark. And at the end of the day, that's what everybody's tuning in for.
You're right. You're absolutely right. Maybe it's dark in the corner because it's dark outside with rain coming. Possibly. It could be part of it. Yeah, Jesse, I saw that whole interaction. It was interesting.
The Rob Brown Show's back on your radio. It is the Fan Upstate. I have a question for you, ladies and gentlemen. I want you, for just a mere moment, to put yourself into the shoes of one Lamont Paris, the head coach of the basketball program at the University of South Carolina. Now, I start this conversation by saying that team is bad this year. They have won 2 conference games, both of them on the road. They have fallen apart in terms of chemistry. And a large part of the reason why is the guy who was supposed to be the best freshman basketball player in America at the collegiate level, G.G. Jackson. Now, G.G. Jackson is uber talented, right? There's no arguing that. G.G. Jackson just a couple of months ago turned 18 years of age. Now, I used to be, this is going to come as a surprise to some of you, I used to be 18 years of age. It was a very long time ago.
You know who he wouldn't have acted this way under? Frank would not have allowed that.
Correct. But that also makes me believe that he just wouldn't have played for Frank Martin, right? So here is the question. And I'm glad he said that, Zoe, because it kind of goes in the direction of the question that I have to ask here, which is, if you are Lamont Paris, you are well aware that G.G. Jackson is a guy who could transfer out of the program and go elsewhere. He is a dude that was expected to be a one-and-done NBA first rounder. But based on both his on and off the court issues this year, I've seen him projected falling as far as the middle of the second round in the NBA's draft, which in NFL draft terms is like a fourth or fifth rounder. It's not great. Gigi said on an Instagram live clip that he dropped a couple of weeks ago that he's thinking about coming back and that he can't transfer because he has, quote, already betrayed one program, end quote, and can't do it to another one. Now, I don't know if that is how G.G. Jackson truly feels or not, right? Or if that was just lip service because his IG live was filled with Gamecock fans who tuned in to hear what he had to say. But obviously, Lamont Paris has decided to internally discipline G.G. Jackson and has done so by benching him. He has not started a game since that Instagram live dropped. In fact, against Vanderbilt in a loss to Vandy, G.G. Jackson only played like 14 total minutes of that game, which is not most of them. And in the process, it feels like G.G. Jackson has become even more isolated and alienated from the program. G.G. Jackson in a timeout during the Vanderbilt game was seen walking away from the team, untucking his jersey, which it shouldn't seem like much, but in the basketball world, untucking your jersey is one of two things. Either you never had it tucked in the first place, but if you physically actively untuck your jersey, it's pretty much widely regarded as a I'm done kind of moment, right? You fouled out, you got benched, guy didn't pass you the ball for a wide open dunk, whatever. It's like, I'm frustrated, I'm done, I'm untucking my jersey. And then he went and did what is widely considered one of the most I quit moves in all of sports. Removing the wrist tape. If you are in the ring and your tag team partner takes the wrist tape off while he's still ringside, you're now in a handicap match because he's leaving. So my question here is, if you are Lamont Paris, getting G.G. Jackson to come play at South Carolina was an absolute coup in the basketball world. Carolina wanted him. Duke wanted him. UNC wanted him. Kentucky wanted him. Indiana wanted him. All the Blue Bloods wanted G.G. And he picked the Gamecocks. And I do think if you're Lamont Paris, you kind of want to showcase G.G. Jackson, right? You want other superstar recruits to believe that if they come to the University of South Carolina, that they can be showcased as well. Because while whatever school you want to play for, you want to be that for life. If you are a one-and-done caliber player, you also want to utilize that school to showcase yourself so that you can get drafted to the association and make buku dinero. Mucho dinero. And obviously right now that's not happening with G.G. Jackson and Lamont Paris. So my question here is, where's the balance for Lamont Paris for the rest of the season? South Carolina has 4 games remaining in the regular season. Where's the balance for Lamont Paris in...
Why do you say that like they're going to get invited to a tournament?
No, they really have 4 games remaining in the regular season.
Well, they'll play in the SEC tournament, right?
Yes.
1 game and then they're
one and done.
Yeah.
I don't have any doubt. They will play in the first round, of which the bottom 4 teams in the SEC play. they will likely at this point get bumped in that round because I don't know who they beat right now, right? I don't know who they beat. Where do you balance showcasing Gigi Jackson, who has displayed a serious lack of maturity, but he is 18, barely 18, versus building for the future of this program? The South Carolina fans that I've seen have already turned on Lamont Paris. I looked it up on a message board earlier, and there were a lot of fans saying that this was another botched coaching search by Ray Tanner and the athletics department. If you're Lamont Paris, you've got to start looking towards next year. Do you give Gigi more time so that you save whatever goodwill there is there and try to get him back for next year? Or do you say, yeah, I don't really want that dude back here next year. We're going to be better off without him, and realize that in doing so, you kind of damage your chances with future one-and-done caliber players. Gamecock fans, how are you handling the disaster that is USC basketball right now? Speaking of basketball, when we come back, speaking of disasters, when we come back, the Clemson Tigers at one point held on to the number 1 spot in the Atlantic Coast Conference. Now they're on the bubble to even make the tournament. What the hell happened? We'll break that down and more on the Rob Brown Show on the Fan Upstate.
Looking for a career path with flexibility and great pay and benefits? Go to progressive.com/careers and apply online today. The Celtics didn't have Tatum, Brown, Horford, or Smart last night in Milwaukee, but still pushed the Bucks to overtime on Sam Hauser's last-second three. But that is where Drew Holiday and company took over from Milwaukee.
We didn't really say much. I feel like at this point, we kind of know what it is for ourselves and the teammates. We're playing pretty well. I don't think anybody really gets too high too long in situations like that.
Holiday scored a career-high 40, including Billy had 3 with 25 seconds left in OT. His Bucks won.
More than fair, Joey B. But like, did you never believe he turned a corner this year when this team was the number 1 overall
Wait.
team
You
in the
did?
ACC?
You absolutely
How
did?
could you not? They beat everybody.
History.
They beat everybody.
History don't lie. I think it's all the other teams were trying to find themselves early on, and then they did.
There's all kinds of ways to learn. Use Babbel's podcasts or games or videos. You can even join live classes with a language teacher.
If you want to learn a language, there's no faster, easier, better way than
Babbel.
Babbel.
Évidemment. Go to Babbel.com to try for free. That's Babbel.com. Babbel.com. Let's face it, credit cards are pretty much a necessity.
New tires for the car? Here's my card.
I order takeout, here's my card. And most of us just accept the high interest rates credit cards charge.
What are you going to do?
Fixed rate credit card consolidation loan from LightStream from $5,000 to $100,000 and pay off those credit card balances. Apply online and you can get your money as soon as the day you apply. The average credit card company charges over 19% APR. LightStream, you can get a fixed rate as low as 7.99% APR with auto pay and Exxon credit.
Now I can pay off my high-interest credit cards and save money at a much lower rate.
Apply today at lightstream.com/radio and get an additional interest rate discount. That's lightstream.com/radio. Lightstream.com/radio.
Hey, it's Matt 99, the Rise Guys. It's time to enjoy a delicious Rise Guys P1 lager from Steel Hands Brewery. Now available in Kansas, select chain stores across the upstate. Also on tap, Habitat, 1325 Miller Road in Greenville. Mason Jar, 202 Trade Street in Greenville. And Boston Core Wellness Arena. With Patriots software, accounting and payroll, keep your time and money.
Cloud-based premium accounting software and full-service payroll for up to 100 employees.
PatriotSoftware.com, accounting and payroll, keep your time and money.
Hey guys, this is Keenan Thompson. I have a problem with you. Yes, you. None of y'all told me that Auto Trader has millions of used cars that I can shop from home. I thought we were friends. I put smiles on your face, but I'm not smiling. No one told me that with Auto Trader, a dealer can deliver cars to my home, or that I can shop my price on Auto Trader. No one. Consider this friendship that you just learned we had officially over. Finally, it's easy. Auto Trader.
Without the ones like you, who work tirelessly to keep things running, everything would suddenly stop. Hospitals, factories, schools, and power plants, they all depend on you. No matter the weather, emergency, or time of day, you're the ones who get it done. At Grainger, we're here for you with professional-grade industrial supplies. Count on real-time product availability and fast delivery. Call clickgrainger.com and just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
This feature sponsored by Staples. Staples Print and Marketing is committed to quality and printing perfect every time. Now at Staples, get $10 off your document printing and marketing material order of $50 or more. Offer is $225. See staples.com/form/printday for details. Try Staples and see the difference.
WORD Sputnik.
The official sports voice of the Upstate Band. CBS Sports Radio. And check this out. For an official Rob Brown lockdown. Represent freedom real. Yeah. Real, unfiltered sports talk. Manufactured locally for the Carolinas. This is the Rob Brown Show. Get Rob. Only
The Rob Brown Show rolls on. The third, the final, the best, the money hour starts right now. This is the Fan Upstate. How y'all doing as we head into our numero tres? I am Rob Brown. The great one, Lonzo, is on the other side of the metaphorical glass today. If you would like to be a part of the radio broadcast, now is a perfect opportunity for you to do so by hitting us up on the text line at 71307. Start your text with FAN, F-A-N, FAN, F-A-N, and we'll read them all on the air. You can also shoot us a phone call at 844-326-3660, 328-44326-3663. And you can get at us on Twitter at The Rob Brown Show, at Lonzo on Word. If you are on the tweet device with us, you can send us your tweets there. We'll read those as well. And, of course, email me, rob.brown@thefanupstate.com. rob.brown@thefanupstate.com is the email addy if you want to hit me up there. Clemson basketball just a couple of weeks ago, I have noticed, Lonzo, a severe drop-off in the number of texts condemning us, me, we, for not talking about Clemson basketball. Rob, said the text, you simply refuse to hold discourse over Clemson basketball because you are so dearly frustrated that Clemson basketball is the best team in the ACC, and you want to see them fail. And now that they are succeeding.
No, you passed the point that you're actually secretly a Gamecock fan and you hate Clemson.
That's what it was.
And all things.
Yeah.
I mean, you missed that part.
I hate them because I am a closet South Carolina Gamecock fan. And I hate them for doing good things. Which, of course, was untrue because I did talk about them multiple times after big-time victories, specifically.
Then they started losing.
And
So maybe it backfired. Maybe that person was coming at you, wanting you to talk about it, and then finally you did. Then they started losing. So maybe it's their fault that they're losing.
I mean, the trash was talked. And unfortunately, Brad Brownell's team has, I don't want to say disappeared. They are, after all, only a game and a half back of the Pittsburgh Panthers, who currently lead the Atlantic Coast Conference at 12-3. The Cavaliers of Virginia are a half game back at 11-3, as are the Miami Hurricanes at 12-4. Then you find Clemson at 10-4, with just a few games remaining. And I remember a conversation that we had a while back, and I believe it came right after the win over Pitt, 75-74. We broke down the remainder of the schedule. I said there were some games that you had to win and a couple that you'd really like to. I said the game against Duke was a game you'd really like to win, and the Tigers did win that game, 72-64. But then there was a game you had to win, which was on the road at Wake Forest. Wake Forest currently sits right in the middle of the pack in the ACC at 9-6. But you lost that game on the road, 87-77. Bounce back, have to win over Virginia Tech, who is fourth from last in the ACC. You got that one, but it was a very close game against the Hokies, 51-50. Then you won back-to-back against Georgia Tech and at Florida State. The Georgia Tech win, 72-51, was a rout, and frankly, it needed to be. Georgia Tech's just 2-13 in conference. The only team worse than them is Louisville. Notre Dame's also 2-13. And you beat them 72-51, exactly the kind of win you needed. But then you went to Florida State, got the win, 82-81 on the home court of a 6-9 in conference Florida State team. But hey, a win is a win. At Boston College, that was a game that you needed to win against the Boston College team that is 6-10 in the ACC. Took the L 62-54. Then against a very good Miami team, a Miami team, by the way, that smoked an 8-7 North Carolina, and you lost by 4 at home. Could not defend the home court. Then you played North Carolina. It was on the road. It was in Chapel Hill, a place that's difficult to play even when the team is bad, and North Carolina certainly ain't good this year. And you got beat by 20, 91-71, a game in which, had they actually made the effort down the stretch, North Carolina could have put up the century mark on you. Now, I got good news and I got bad news. The good news is you're still on the bubble to make the tournament. The bad news is you're now on the bubble to make the tournament. Brad Brownell's team has been accused many times, at least the 3 years since I've been here, of being inconsistent, and that is their number one flaw. And I would agree with that. But I thought that Clemson had turned a corner this year. You got guys like Hunter Tyson that are averaging well up north of 15 points a game. You're getting over 4 assists per game from Chase Hunter. PJ Hall has got maybe the best interior defense in the Atlantic Coast Conference in terms of big men. You've locked down the rim. I thought, and I even said a couple of weeks ago, where are all the Brad Brownell haters now? Where you at? Y'all wanted the dude canned at the end of this offseason. And what did Brad Brownell do? He came out, had a bad loss to South Carolina, but then ran off 3 in a row before losing to number 25 Iowa. Then he ran off 4 in a row, had a bad loss to Loyola Chicago, but then ran off 7 in a row. The problem is after that 7 in a row and the loss to Wake Forest, it has been up and down since then. 3 in a row against Vatech, Georgia Tech, and Florida State. 3 L's in a row against Boston College, Miami, and North Carolina. All of whom, by the way, were, at the time, behind Clemson in the ACC standings. My question here is now, was now, and remains now. Why? What went wrong? Now, my man Joey B popped up in the chat a minute ago and said, what do you mean? What happened? Brad Brownell has been there doing this exact thing repeatedly for over a decade. I never once believed it. Brownell is a great guy, very highly respected by his peers, but his teams are always inconsistent. I thought Clemson had turned that corner. They had finally got it. You see it all the time. Inconsistency, inconsistency, inconsistency. And then finally, the right button is found and pushed. And whatever it was, the mental block that caused that inconsistency goes away. But clearly that isn't the case here. And I listen, I'm a basketball guy. I love college basketball. I'm a big fan. But in watching the last 3 games for the Tigers, a 62-54 loss against a very mid Boston College Eagles team, which is 6-10 in ACC play, a 78-74 loss against a good 12-4 Miami Hurricanes team, and then a 20-point L to a North Carolina team that is a single game ahead of Florida State. Sorry, 2 games ahead of FSU, 2.5 over BC and Vatech. It's not a great North Carolina team, and you got beat by 20 on the road. I've looked for the trends. I've looked for the patterns, right? It's not necessarily home and away. The loss at South Carolina was away. The loss against Loyola Chicago was home, right? Now it was a tournament. It was a kind of exhibition match, but still no reason to lose to that team. The loss at Wake Forest was offset by the loss at home against Miami. Like, what is the block here that took a team that for a month and a half was dominating the Atlantic Coast Conference, that was set up for a 1 seed in conference, was set up to get the 2-round bye, was set up to have the easiest path maybe ever between them and an ACC regular season title and potentially ACC tournament title? What caused them to just fall off? And the only answer that I've been able to come up with is that Brad Brownell's Clemson Tigers team just lack the mentality of a winner. And I despise saying stuff like that. I think it's a cop-out, right? I think when you hear sports dudes say they don't have the Mamba mentality, they don't have the mindset of a killer, it's weak. I think that's something that more often than it's not, people use as a placeholder when they can't break down a game. When they can't look at a team and go, hey, you know, it's a lot of off-ball screens. Off-ball screens need to be run by teams that have speed in the front court. They don't have speed in the front court, so the off-ball screens aren't the right way to go. They should be doing this instead. And instead of being able to break that down, you just go, oh, they just don't have a good mentality. It's like, yeah, but like, what does that do for me? That being said, that type of, what will we call it? What do they call it? The intangibles. That's what it is. Sometimes those intangibles are there. Like I mentioned earlier, Anthony Davis. Anthony Davis should be an elite basketball player. Lonzo and I both believe he fits squarely in the really good tier. Not great, and certainly not elite, but the really good tier. And I firmly believe it is Anthony Davis's mind that kept him from taking it to the next level. But even that's better than it just lacks the killer mentality. I think Anthony Davis doesn't understand the struggle. G.G. Jackson, same scenario. I think G.G. Jackson showed up at South Carolina and thought, I'm going to be a 30, 10, and 10 guy and good enough to dog walk South Carolina into the Final Four just on sheer talent alone. But G.G. Jackson is at the time, 17-year-old kid who had been elite at every level he played at, high school, AAU, etc. G.G. Jackson just genuinely did not understand what adversity was like, and he's learning it. Clemson basketball obviously understands adversity. They've been through a lot of it under Brad Brownell the last couple of years. But I thought they had turned that corner. And now it turns out they haven't. Because as soon as they faced a little adversity, and it really wasn't even that much, the loss at Wake Forest, you turned around with 3 straight dubs after that. But the L to BC seems to have broken Clemson. Now, I don't want to panic. It's 3 losses. The Boston College loss is real bad. I would dare say almost inexcusable. The loss to North Carolina, a point or 2 loss. It's probably not the end of the world. Chapel Hill's a tough place to play, but you got smoked by 20, and as soon as you got smoked by 20, you melted down, right? The loss to Miami, granted, it's at home. You love to defend home court, but Miami's a good little basketball team. Tonight's game, as far as I am concerned, has gone from a game that I said 3 weeks ago was a game you have to win against Florida State at home. It is still a game you have to win, but I think this game has just become Clemson's season. Because if they eat L number 4, they are going to go from last 4 out to first 4 in for Lunardi. I'd be willing to bet. But more importantly, 4 consecutive losses down the stretch of the regular season with only, 5 games to play after that? You take an L to FSU tonight at home, which I don't think you will. I got Clemson picked in this game, and frankly, probably by about 12. But it is a Florida State team that just a handful of days ago took Clemson to the wire 82-81. I watched that game. All due respect, and frankly, Florida State should have won that basketball game. They botched a couple of last-minute efforts. They should have won that game. Florida State choked more than Clemson took it away from them. Florida State can beat Clemson. They shouldn't. They got no business doing it. But if Clemson is going to make a tournament run, if they are going to fight their way in at the last minute, tonight's game is going to be the key to that. Because after this, you're at Louisville, a 1-win team in the ACC. You're not going to get a lot of credit for that. That's like a tier 3 win if they get it. So is Florida State, but it being at home and coming on the heels of a 3-game win streak, if you want anybody responsible for filling in who's going dancing and marching, who's not, to respect you, you got to beat Florida State. Not win the game. You got to straight up beat Florida State tonight. Because that Louisville's not going to give you any brownie points. Syracuse is not going to give you many brownie points. They're currently, I think a half game up or a full game up on Carolina, right squarely in the middle of the pack. NC State will give you some brownie points. They're ranked 23rd in the country right now. They're 10-6 in the ACC. But if you can't beat Florida State, as I've said to you all year long, negatives from L's are worse than the benefits you get from dubs in college basketball. A couple of top 10 wins are pretty much equal to an L from a mid or lower school. Then you're on the road at number 7, Virginia. All due respect, I don't see how you win that game. And then you wrap up against Notre Dame. You should go out, ought to win. Notre Dame is terrible. They're 2-13 and cannot find a new head coach for that program. So you've got what should theoretically be 2 more wins on the schedule in Louisville and Notre Dame, 2 contested games in FSU and Syracuse, and 2 probable losses against NC State and Virginia. And the NC State and Virginia games are both on the road. For those of you that wanted Brad Brownell gone, I asked you 2 weeks ago where you are. Said, has your opinion changed? We got a couple of people who went, yeah, I think we turned the corner. I think maybe he just needed one more thing, and he found it. But I think that ship has sailed. I think it is no longer in the port. If Brad Brownell, after hanging on to for multiple weeks the top of the ACC standings, drops 2 more games out of this run and gets bounced from being in the tournament, I think it will be time to make the change. He seems like a very nice guy. The limited interactions I have had with him through press junkets and all that, he has seemed very kind, very gracious, and that's all well and good. But you got to get tired of being the bridesmaid at some point, right? You got to be tired of shooting yourself in the foot and coming up just short all the time. And before you hit me with, yeah, Rob, but if you make the change, because that would describe Frank Martin at South Carolina pretty well, right? A lot of really good efforts, had a great run out of the gate, made it to a Final Four, and then just average after that.
Yeah, but you're talking about them as being a bridesmaid. Come on, they're that last bridesmaid that you have to add because someone canceled.
I mean, not
and they get
entirely
stuck
wrong.
with a dress that was fitted for somebody else, but
True, but keep in mind, in the COVID year, Brad Brownell, when COVID hit and it got real, the moment it got real for us, well, for me, I was sitting in this studio in that chair on the corner with the television turned on because we got preempted when Clemson and Florida State were set to square off in the ACC championship in the tournament. Clemson was 40 good minutes of basketball away from being the ACC tournament champions. They've been very close and just can't crest the hill. And before any of you hit me with, yeah, Rob, but if you let go of Brad Brownell, you run the risk of falling even further off. Look at South Carolina, right? They decided we're tired of being the bridesmaid. We're going to let Frank Martin go. We're going to let go of all the players who came to play for Frank Martin, and we're going to go in a different direction. They bring in Lamont Paris. Lamont's got to work with cast-offs of lesser programs and 1 star, and it's going horrendously wrong. But my question is this. Would you rather just be a mid-team year after year after year, a team that can't make the tournament, a team that makes the tournament and gets bounced in round 1 every year? Or would you rather suffer 2 or 3 years of being a bad team for the premise of a new guy coming in, taking all the benefits of being there, right? You're a nationally recognized brand. You're in an ACC that is currently down. It's not bad, but it's down as a conference right now. It's the perfect time to strike. You've got Georgia, Tennessee, the Carolinas to recruit out of, as well as Florida, which is an underrated basketball hotspot. Would you rather just keep coming up short and being in these crap spots right now, like you're about to be, despite being number 1 in the ACC for a couple of weeks? Or would you rather bite the bullet, be bad for a couple of years, figure it out, and at least give yourself a chance to turn the corner? At least bring in some new blood and give yourself a chance to turn the corner and not be the middle child any longer. a lot of pressure tonight. Florida State visits. That game tips at 7 p.m. at Little John. If Brad Brownell and his Tigers lose this game, I think Brad Brownell is on his way out. If they do not, there's still a hell of a lot of work to do, but at least the tunnel's not that much deeper. Let's take a break. We'll come back. Got a few more things I want to hit rapid fire before we get to Twitter trending topics and call it a day. I am Rob. He is Lonzo. And this is the Rob Brown Show. This is the Fan Upstate. They choked bigly. That's a great adjective. Why do you hate middle children, Rob? Oh, my God. The inside joke that just won't die.
I think it's children of all ages. It's not the middle child or the older child or the youngest child. It's just children. I'm thinking more like Butterbean or King Kong Bundy, but I appreciate the Paul White comparison. But as Rob and I know, because we interviewed him live on the air on StreamYard, go back and look, his head would not fit on the screen. He had to keep adjusting it because his head was so big. The only person who could come in and go and wear my headphones though and not look at me weird.
Lonzo's headphones are like one of those ladders that have the bendy things on the side, but with headphones on.
Hey, you know, it's a large cranium. It's all steroids, apparently. My head is proportioned perfectly for the size of my body, though. So. You hold this thing around, you'd have this massive neck also. I hope so.
No.
Who knows? We'll discuss it greatly tomorrow. And who could show up and help or hurt? We haven't seen KO. And who knows? Maybe there's a swerve because certain people are not allowed in Canada. Maybe they got an exception and they show up anyway.
It was just one of them, right?
No, they both
They both are?
Yeah.
Well, they played it off spectacular.
Oh no, it was a good move, which is why it wouldn't shock me if that was a swerve. And why haven't we seen Solo? Solo's been absent for a week at least.
No, just the one, because he was at our SmackDown and we've only had one since then.
Yeah, but
So it was the 1 week. But yeah, they didn't. Wait, no, wasn't he on? Didn't he come in at the very end?
I don't think so.
No, he didn't. You're right. Or have we had 2 SmackDowns since there? I don't remember. Time's a blur. I am of the opinion that professional athletes owe us nothing. Okay? They owe us nothing. If you feel like they owe you something and they're not giving it to you, it is your choice whether or not you continue to spend money on the product. But they don't owe us anything. Now, I tend to favor professional athletes who give back to the fans, to the communities they come from, et cetera, but it doesn't mean they owe it, right? However, I'm having a weird, unusual reaction right now to Aaron Rodgers. And I'll tell you why. It actually comes from a business spot, not a personal spot. Aaron Rodgers has not yet begun his 4-day darkness retreat, locking himself in a broom closet without light for a half of a week. Instead, he appeared yesterday on the Pat McAfee show from his house in Malibu. They asked him about that. They asked him about the darkness retreat. They asked him about going on the darkness retreat. And Rodgers was not super happy about it. The 39-year-old did not specifically say when he was entering the one-room house during last week's appearance, but with teams waiting for his answer on whether he'll play yet another season, he's tired of people talking about it. On the Pat McAfee show, Rodgers blasted the reports that came out Tuesday that said he was in his darkness retreat this week. Now, some of you, justifiably so, may say to yourself, Rob, who gives a good gosh darn when Aaron Rodgers decides to lock himself in a closet? And the answer is about 7 NFL teams care. Because there are about 7 NFL teams that are all hanging out, waiting for the quarterback market to fully reveal itself. As we mentioned, we learned yesterday that the Tennessee Titans are considering putting Ryan Tannehill up on the trade block and making their transition to whoever their next quarterback will be. The quarterback market is not fully revealed yet. There may be more surprises, maybe some more first rounders. The highest of shocks that would not shock me at all would be if Chicago did indeed decide to jettison Justin Fields and move on with another number 1 pick. I can't imagine that happening, but maybe it does. Point is, there are some teams that are waiting for the bigger picture to reveal itself before they decide to make their move. And Aaron Rodgers is one of, if not the primary cog in that machine, right? 39-year-old, multiple-time Pro Bowler, 1 season removed from being the NFL MVP. And while the fall-off is there, a lot of that fall-off can directly be directed at the fact that the Packers just got worse as a football team. So did Aaron as a football player. But the Packers got worse. You got rid of Devontae Adams, one of the best 3 wide receivers in the National Football League. As we pointed out with Ryan Tannehill, when I asked earlier, does Tannehill's availability change the preferences you have for the Panthers quarterback? And his stats falling off were brought up as a reason for the answer no. The question then became, but how much of that do you attribute to A.J. Brown being jettisoned by the Titans? Because Brown showed up at Philly and was a force, including a redonk touchdown catch in the Super Bowl. I think one thing that we do is we just assume that every quarterback stands on level footing in terms of their numbers, right? We just expect that all quarterbacks are gauged by the best quarterback that year. And sometimes we don't take into consideration the team that they were on. Aaron Rodgers was on a team that was fundamentally less talented than last year's Packers team. A Packers team he led to an NFL MVP award and a playoff berth, right? So, on one hand, I get it. Aaron Rodgers is probably frustrated. A darkness retreat is something you go on specifically to isolate yourself from the rest of the world. I don't want to hear about the world's problems. I don't want to hear about my employer's problems. I don't want to hear about my friends' problems. I want to go in a dark room with no light, no sound, so I can be inside my own head only, isolate, concentrate, and develop solutions for my problems. And by the way, there's nothing wrong with that. We should all be taking some time to reflect inwards on our own problems and come up with our own solutions to them. And some of those solutions may involve other people's help and some not. There's nothing wrong with that. I got no problem with the darkness retreat at all. The darkness retreat's like the 8th weirdest thing that Aaron Rodgers has done in the past 3 or 4 years. But I think he's also to some degree got to understand that with being one year removed from an NFL MVP award, with being arguably, not definitively, but arguably, the most lucrative and intriguing free agent quarterback on the market, people want to know what your lean is. Forget the fans. Put them off to the side. Franchises need to know what your lean is.
Is there a possibility that he genuinely doesn't know yet?
Yes.
I mean, because he's old enough to retire, and he's probably well off enough to retire.
He's probably just fine. And even if he's not, Aaron Rodgers is an entertaining enough dude. He is going to have some avenue of entertainment available to him when he leaves. Join McAfee's crew, start his own podcast, get into a broadcast booth. Somebody's going to pay
Work
him.
his way back into Jeopardy where he
Whatever.
belongs.
Yeah, I honestly, he's better than either of the two that are currently hosting it. Whatever he decides to do, he's going to be fine. And again, I'm not even saying Aaron Rodgers needs to make up his mind, as I've seen on the socials recently. But Rodgers said to McAfee, quote, by the way, this comes after a report from both Rappaport and Schefter, who have issued a number of reports on Aaron Rodgers. Shefty was the one that reported that Rodgers was unhappy with the Packers during the 2021 offseason and wanted out of Green Bay. He said, quote, nobody talks to Ian Rappaport, to Adam Schefter, or to any of those people. So if you're one of those people who are talking to those people, it's a great reminder to you, you're not in the inner circle. Just stop with the fake news. I speak for myself, and I will continue to do that. I'm not upset about it. It's classic media. The problem is there's a slippery slope. When somebody says something, Ian Rappaport or Adam Schefter or Joe Biden, Donald Trump, Anthony Fauci, Joe Rogan, myself, question it. If it's legitimate, it can stand up to questioning. But no one in my inner circle talks to those reporters. I don't talk to those people, end quote. First off, respect the circle of trust reference. Here's the thing, A-Rod of the football persuasion. And I've had conversations about this in the past to folks trying to come up in this industry that I have mentored at whatever level I've done so. One of the things that is inevitably going to happen to you when you enter this arena, that is the arena of making yourself and your career a public figure, especially when you do it in a way that other people's lives that you don't even know are invested in you, but certainly when multi-million-dollar organizations are invested in you. It turns out they want to know where you are, what your plans are, where you're going, et cetera, et cetera. And there's not a football player on planet Earth that is more, I don't know if coveted is the right word right now, But that is more intriguing to franchises than Aaron Rodgers, with the potential exception of Lamar Jackson.
He's also the most scrutinized quarterback right now, too. Controversial for some reason.
Controversial's fair.
Yeah, I all those teams who are, as you said, coveting him, they don't care about the controversy because that doesn't affect how he plays on the field.
No, at the end of the day, all of us engage in some level of tribalism, and there may not be a stronger element of tribalism than our sports teams, right? A lot of us are willing to overlook the transgressions of particular athletes if they're helping my team be the best team. We do it with politics all the time.
I'll say, you may think he's weird, but he hasn't broken any laws. And there are people out there breaking laws, and people still want them on their team. It's just about, can this guy help my team win? And can Aaron Rodgers help a team win right now?
Yes. Without a doubt, especially if that team's already got a built offense. Let's say theoretically, Lonzo, they have a top 10 wide receiver, a core of young talent that's got a wide array of abilities locked under them, a strong offensive line, a very good run game, provided they can re-sign the free agent who was the head horseman for them last year, a good defense that can create some turnovers. Any teams in particular I'm describing to you right now?
Sounds like a team like right up the road.
Sure does. One of the things that you're going to have to do with Aaron Rodgers is say, hey, if you come here, we can win now, right? We can do this right now. Carolina's in that group, in my opinion. So you got a bunch of teams like Carolina and a bunch of fans who are intrigued in the possibility, all paying attention. Aaron, you're a very public figure, my dude. And here's the other aspect of this. And this is, I think, where the weird feeling comes from. I find it interesting that Aaron Rodgers doesn't want people talking about his plans live on the Pat McAfee show, a show that is tuned into by millions of people every day that it airs, right? You're doing a real good job of keeping yourself out of the limelight if you are going on the single most viewed sports podcast in America right now. Like I said, I'm not upset with Aaron Rodgers. Do I think Aaron Rodgers has said some dumb things I agree with? Yes. You know who else has done that? Most people in my life. And you know what else is crazy? I've probably said some things that they consider dumb and disagree with as well. I don't care. I have some problems with some of the stuff he said. Does it mean I think he's a bad person? No. Misguided? Maybe. But not bad. But Aaron, you're going to get talked about, dude. You are the linchpin in everything going on in the National Football League right now because teams are building their entire franchise around individual quarterbacks, and you are going to be the most coveted one out there. And if you don't want people talking about your future, you really have two options. Number one, come back from your darkness retreat and tell everybody what you're going to do, or stop going on the number one most listened to, viewed, and watched podcast in America and throwing out little spoiler predictions.
I still believe that this is all a troll job by Aaron Rodgers playing the media. I don't believe there are any mushrooms. I don't believe there's ever going to be a dark retreat. I think he does this stuff and he sits back and he laughs about how people run with this thing.
My dude's just going to be tripping on shrooms in Malibu for 3 days.
I don't think he's done any of that. I think he's just put it out there because he knows that they're going to run with it and is laughing about it.
I just want A-Rod one day to come out as like a full-fledged, straight-edge, liberal atheist. It's like, I don't believe in any of that. I just liked watching you guys get wrapped up in it all. LOL. 29 years of football, and you guys never talked about football. I am so good at this. A+ troll job.
See, you're doing all that, and if that actually happened, would you be surprised?
Shocked and wildly amused. Wildly amused.
When you take the politics and all that stuff out of it, in the end, when he retires, I hope he comes back and does a Jerry Lawler thing and says, yeah, the entire time.
It was me all along.
It was a work all along, and you guys fell for it. This is how easily you're played.
I don't know, man. I just, like I said, it's for Aaron Rodgers. If you don't want people talking about you and your future, either A, tell people what you're doing so that they can respond to that, or B, stop going on one of the most viewed shows in America and dropping breadcrumbs.
Unless you're trolling, and that's the ultimate place to do it at.
In which case, enjoy yourself, I guess.
Come on. You wouldn't have fun with that.
All right, let's take a break. When we come back, ladies and gentlemen, we put a bow on the show. Get a little Twitter trending topics. We'll take a look at what's trending around the nation on social media and break down what everybody's breaking down. That's next. I'm Rob. He's Lonzo. This is the Rob Brown Show. And this, ladies and gentlemen, is the Fan Upstate.
Kevin, there are times when I wonder if you realize what you're writing. That's all I'm saying.
Wow. The odds-on favorites to sign Derek Carr right now are the Carolina Panthers.
Don't do it.
They are 7-5 favorites. The Saints are 3-2. The Jets are 3-1. The Bucks are 9-1. The Patriots 14-1.
Can you have multiple halos? I don't know. Most depictions, there's only one halo. I did have the crowd halo for the longest, where I'd walk in and sit down and there would be 3 feet all around me and no one would. Doesn't have to do with smell because I shower daily. It's just that, people don't know how to deal with me. It's a good way to not be bothered at all my kids' games, though. They thought it was hilarious because they would look up in the stands and see a spot where no one was around, and there I would be in the middle. It's easy for them to find me. I'm not so sure that Derek Carr isn't more of the same. If you're going to gamble on a Derek Carr, why not gamble on trading all the picks away and go up against CJ Stroud?
Because with Derek Carr, you're gambling and not trading all your picks away. You have zero value on picks.
So we don't need any more players.
Yeah.
We just need a quarterback. That's it. You just pointed out how Aaron Rodgers would be a perfect fit because of all the things that are there. What's the one thing that's not there? Quarterback. They traded all away and go up and get Bryce Young. They made a mistake, though. CJ Stroud only. Getting a lot of alerts that Bieniemy is actually interviewing for the Washington OC job. I still don't understand what we're actually supposed to do here in a little bit.
I don't either.
and how we're supposed to do the thing that they're saying they want us to do in that particular room?
I suspect they'll tell us.
I don't. I can say if we're going down to put on a show, we need some dinner to go with it. Or lunch.
I'm good with lunch.
I should have wrote back and said these things are generally catered, and that's a requirement of the star Rob Brown. Sometimes you got to name drop to get things done.
I don't work for anything less than Panera.
There we go. Got to have some standards. Hot soup on a day like this. I'll be all right with that.
Oh, man, Panera paninis are the bangers.
I'm still trying to win a contest. So. Would you look at air on this dismal Wednesday? The show is already nearly over. It is time for Twitter Trending Topics, where I tell Rob what is trending, and he will tell us why. Tell us why the Raiders are trending.
Dead Raiders. The Raiders trending, I'm assuming, for one of two reasons. Either A, it's because, as we announced yesterday on the show, Derek Carr has been released from his contract and the Raiders organization. And by the way, the odds are now up on the books in Vegas, and the odds on favorites at 7-5 to sign Derek Carr are, ladies and gentlemen, your Carolina Panthers are Vegas's odds on favorites to sign Carr. But no. They are trending today, ladies and gentlemen. Whether this is true or not, it is in my head, because Mark Davis, you know, the legendary bowl cut that he's been giving himself in the back of his creeper van for the past, I don't know, ever. He has given himself, ladies and gentlemen, the Bic treatment, the Vin Diesel. He has gone completely Lex Luthor and is down bald now.
Now, there are some men that can pull that off, and women, by the way, but I can't find the pics. I've been looking. I cannot find them anywhere. So I'm calling shenanigans here until I can see a photo.
No. Don't you worry. And ladies and gentlemen, this is why you join the stream, because at the end of the day, we can provide resources to you you won't get anywhere else. There, right there. Let me move the little banner so you can actually see his head.
That's Kingpin. That's the Kingpin.
That, ladies and gentlemen, is a freshly bicked head, Mark Davis.
Yeah, that's a Kingpin without a doubt. And at least now we know he didn't die at the end of the series there. So that's good to know.
Fair enough.
Very good to know. All right, the next thing that's trending is, by the way, it's a much better look for him without a doubt.
And it ain't particularly close, man.
If that dude walks in a room, you have no idea who he is. I mean, because of what we're used to seeing, you have no clue.
You're not wrong. You're not wrong.
Be like, is that the head of Disney? Is that, I don't know who is that. All right, the next thing that's trending is Joker 2.
The first stills from the filming of Joker Folie à Doigt, or Doigt et Folie.
I was going to say valiantly done. I'm not sure. But
yeah, I don't know. Whichever one it is. Have been released, including showing Joaquin as the Joker in his face paint, alongside a terrified-looking co-star, Lady Gaga, who will be starring in the movie. I enjoyed the Joker. I liked it as one of those.
The last 10 minutes were pretty good. Everything else was just such a drag. And it's so easy to figure out what was going to happen. It just, I mean.
See, I'm a big fan of seeing the backstory. Like that scene was.
I get it, but pacing was like 70s TV
right,
pacing.
But I think that was the kind of the whole point of the movie for me was for you to experience your brain not being fed the way that you're used to it feeling. And it kind of made it feel like you weren't like you want this isn't normal. This isn't how it's supposed to be. So that by the time the Joker has his breakdown in the movie, you've kind of had a movie, a fictional breakdown of your own to put yourself into the same headspace as him. I just am curious as to where this story goes. I have always said one of the biggest failures in Hollywood are Batman projects that don't involve Batman. I'm interested to see how close we tiptoe to that line in this movie.
Well, Bruce Wayne was in the first movie. So, I mean, remember he terrorized the child Bruce Wayne.
Yep.
It is going to be a musical. Still, as far as I know, going to be a musical.
I'm not against it. One of my favorite episodes of TV ever. I was a big fan of the show Scrubs. And Scrubs did a musical episode that I was horrified by until I watched it. And I was like, that was actually pretty damn good how they set that whole thing up. It was phenomenal. Ladies and gentlemen, that's it for us. We are done. 21-hour break. We're back tomorrow. It is Thursday. Rashad Beard will join us to talk Panther football at 9:30. Fight Club with Lonzo is at 11:20 tomorrow. We'll catch you up on all the pro wrestling. And we got a couple of big UFC events coming up in the near future. We'll work those in as well and get you all set up for the Daytona 500 and more. I am Rob. He is Lonzo. This was the Rob Brown Show. It'll be back tomorrow right here on the Fan Upstate. Later, brother. There you have it, ladies and gentlemen. That is a complete and total radio program right in your ear holes. You're all welcome. Thank you all for watching. Hope you enjoyed.
Thank you.
You're the best, and we will see you back here tomorrow to do it all over again. Have a lovely rest of your Wednesday. Goodbye.